The Mishnah. So again, a lot of these halachas we learned already previously, and we'll just have a lot of sources for these halachas. The Bas Yisrael shenisas l'kayin, a Bas Yisrael who marries a kayin, toichal b'truma. As we said earlier in the Masechta, she's not kinyan kaspo. Since she's kinyan kaspo, she would eat truma. Mace, and if the husband, the kayin, dies, v'lohi meru ben, and she has a child from the kayin, toichal b'truma. Right, she eats truma. Nisas Levi, if she marries a Levi, Teichel b'maiser. Now, what's she doing now is she's an almana from a kayin, and she has a child from the kayin. She now goes ahead and marries a Levi. So Teichel b'maiser, she would now eat maiser, but since she's married to a zar, she no longer eats truma. So again, she ate truma when her husband was alive. Her husband died and left her with a son. She's eating truma. Her nesuin, her wedding to the Levi, now stops her from eating truma, but she now, again, could eat meiser based upon the opinion of Meir, who said yesterday that meiser is like truma. Now, mace, if the Levi dies, v'lohi menu ben, and she has a child from the Levi, teichel b'meiser, she would eat meiser. Nisas li Yisrael, if now she gets married for a third time to a Yisrael, then loy soichel loy truma v'loy b'maiser. She would not eat truma, which she couldn't eat anyway because of the child from the Levi, and she could not go ahead and eat now because of the child from the marriage to the Yisrael. She no longer would eat maiser. Mace, if she die, if the Yisrael dies, v'lohi menu ben, and she has what a ben. She has a son from the Yisrael. She would not eat what? Truma or maisa. That would stop it. That'll be finished, okay? So if she ends up at the end of the day with a child from the Yisrael, she's finished. She can't go back to meiser, and she can't go back to truma. Now the Gemara now Mishnah is going to go back in reverse now. So what happens if the Yisrael's, the baby dies, the child dies from the Yisrael, the child dies from the Levi, you go back to the original. So now, Meis Benami Yisrael, let's say the Yisrael would die the child, Teichel b'maiser, she'd go back to eating meiser. Meis Benami Levi, then Teichel b'truma. Meis Benami Kayin, Leisoichel le b'truma v'le b'maiser, she would not eat anything. Okay, that's the first part of the Mishnah. That's the Bas Yisrael to a Kayin. Now, the other way around is the Bas Kayin, Shenisas to Yisrael. So until now, she's been eating truma de beinashya. She's been eating truma in a father's house. So Bas Kayin Shenisas to Yisrael. She now marries Yisrael. Leisoichel b'truma. She would not go ahead and eat truma. She would not go ahead and eat truma. Because why? Because when she's married to a Yisrael, she no longer eats truma. Mace, if he dies, now if she has no children, she go back to daddy's house. However, v'lohi menu ben, she has a son. Leisoichel truma. She does not eat truma. She doesn't eat truma. If she has a son, she doesn't eat truma. Nisas Levi, if she marries a Levi, Teichel b'maiser. Mace, the Levi dies, v'lo yimenu ben, Teichel b'maiser, she still eat maiser. Nisas the Kayin, if she marries a Kayin, Teichel b'truma, she would again eat truma again, just like she did when she was in daddy's house. Mace, v'lo yimenu ben, Teichel b'truma, she'd eat truma because of the son. Mace b'na, if the Kayin, the son, the last son that she has from the Kayin dies, like Teichel b'truma. Mace b'na me Levi, like Teichel b'maiser. Then she go back and eating truma, not because of the husband. She going back to eating because he's back in daddy's house, right? If she returns to her father's house like she was a naira, meaning she was unattached, she eats what from the lechem of her father. She eats what from sochel. She eats it from the father's food. Okay, so that was the Mishnah. So basically, we saw a chiddush in the Mishnah that if she has a child, a new marriage can go ahead and void a relationship that you had before. So she had a relationship with the Kayin. She's a Bas Yisrael. She had a child. She's eating truma. As soon as she marries the Levi, finito, that's finished. But now she eats Maisa, according to Rabbi, right? Ends that. Yisrael. Okay, so basically, the Mishnah is self-explanatory, back and forth. Now, the Gemara wants to know the following: Meis b'na me Levi, right? Toichel b'truma. So going back on the case, going back on the case of the Bas Yisrael, of the Bas Yisrael, the case of the Bas Yisrael, right? Meis Bename Levi, Toichel b'truma. Then she'd eat truma because she had its son from the Kayin. The Hajra Achli Mishum Bina. She would go ahead and eat from the son. So the Bas Yisrael, who was married to a Kayin, had a son with the Kayin. As soon as the Levi dies, then she would go back because she has a son from the Kayin. Fred the Gemara the following. Minalan, how do you know? Right? Minalan, how do you know? So Omar of Abba, Omar Rab, Shenemar, because it says Ubas, it says Bas, Ubas. In other words, it could have said Bas, but it says Bas. So how do you know that a Zar that's eating because of the son gets Asa because she married a Zar and goes back? Okay, what's the case, guys? She was a Bas Yisrael married to a Kayin. She has a son that's a Kayin, right? And now she goes ahead and she's eating because of that son. What happens then is she marries a Levi and she stops eating. But yeah, it's bothering me. Okay, so we want to know, how do you know that once she stops, she goes back? How do you know that she's able to go back after she married a Levi and now that ends? How do you know she goes back to the relationship that her son from the Kayin would feed her? How do you know that? So the pasuk says, guys, Ubas Kayin Kisia Almano Gerusha Vizera Ein La Bas Kayin. Now this is speaking about Bas Kayin. We're going to apply it to a Bas Yisrael. There's all Rashi over here, how we apply it to a Bas Yisrael. So it says Bas. Now it could have said Bas, but it says Ubas, right? It says Ubas. Good. So the extra vav teaches me that in that scenario, not only when she's not married could she go back, but even if she married somebody else, as long as there's nothing impeding her, the son would feed her. So now, Kiman, Rabbi Akiva, Darish Vav. This is Rabbi Akiva, Darshans Vavs, Ubas. So Afilu Tem Rabbanon, Kulu Ubas Kro Yaseru. The whole is extra. Guys, listen to the pasuk. Listen to the way this pasuk reads. Ubas Koyin Kisiel Izar. Ubas Koyin, when she'll marry a non-Koyin, he be truma sekotchim le'soichel. She won't eat truma. That's pasuk Yud Beis. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Ubas Koyin Kisiel Almana Gerusha. Now, since the pasuk and pasuk Yud Beis was speaking about Bas Koyin, you didn't have to tell me in Yud Gimel Bas Koyin. Simply say, and Kisiyen Almana Begerusha. So it's not only the vav that's extra, the whole word is extra, because the whole context, it would read from Pasuk Yud Beis to Bas Kayin. So Memela, I know it's speaking of Bas Kayin. Why does that have to say in Pasuk Yud Gimel Bas Kayin? It must be what? That's extra to Darshan, that if she marries somebody else and that marriage ends, and now she has a son that's a Kayin, that would go ahead and allow her to eat Truma again. So, Tanrabanan, Kishi Chayzeres, when she comes back. Now, this is not going on the case of our Mishnah, guys. This is going on a regular case, meaning a regular Bas Kayin married a Jew, married a regular Jew. She doesn't eat truma. If he dies and she has no children, she goes back to eating truma. Good. Now, but she doesn't go back to eating the chaz of a shaykh. We had this early in the Masechta. She would not go back to eat the chaz of a shaykh, the chest and the right flank. That she would not go back to. Says the Gemara, Ton Rabbanan, Kishi Chayzeres, when the Bas Kohen goes back, again, not the case of a Mishnah where she married somebody else, a regular case, she just returns home. Chayzeres the Truma, she goes back to eating Truma, Ve'ena Chayzeres the chaz of a shaykh, but she does not go back to eating the chaz of a shaykh. And now we're going to have a few limudim, how do you know? In other words, this seems to be you're cutting hairs. She's going back to being a Bas Kohen, and when she was a Bas Kohen before she got married, she did eat the chaz of a shaykh. And now all of a sudden, and she ate truma, she gets married, she goes back to truma, but doesn't go back to the chaz of a shaykh. It seems a bit odd. What? We did discuss it earlier. Daf Samaches, with Samaches and base, we discussed this. So that's the Gemara. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Avina, Bar Shila, Mikra. What's the pasuk? Here's the whole pasuk. Ubas kohen kisiel izar he betrumas hakachim loisaychel. Now the word trumas hakachim seems to be a little redundant. You're telling me truma, and you tell me kachim. Just say he. We said kachim alone is truma. So, and the word truma, guys, means a separation. It doesn't mean a gift. It means a separation. Truma is, we use it as a gift, but it's a separation. So now, he betrumas hakachim loisochel. What does that mean? Be murim min hakachim loisochel. That we separate from kachim, she doesn't eat. Why do we separate from kachim that a woman possibly could eat? Is why is the chaz of a shaykh. She can't eat chata, she can't eat asham, she could shlamim. So b'muram min kachim, a play on the word b'muram, the separation for kachim, loisaychel. That's the limit of Ravina, the Barshila. Rav Nachman Amar, Rabbi Ravua. Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabbi Ravua, it says Melechem Avia. The pasuk says Kinorel El Beis Avia Kinorel Milechem Avia Seichel. From the lechem of a father. Okay, Milechem. Again, mem always means part of. Milechem, but like kol lechem. Right? She eats from the lechem, but not all the lechem. Prat l'chaz b'shaik, meaning it's going to exclude the chaz b'shaik. Rashi brings that lechem also can refer to a meal from a pasuk with Bal Shatza. So now we have two limudim, either from Trumas Kachim or the word milechem. How do you know it means that she doesn't go back to the chaz v'shaik? Maybe she goes back to the chaz v'shaik. Maybe she doesn't go back to hafaras nedarim. Before she's married, the father has the right to be made for nedarim. When she gets married, her husband now has the right to take off a nedarim. However, once it ends, she does not go back to either one. How do you know that? Maybe you know the word sumi lechem, that she goes back to lechem, but not to hafaras nedarim. How do you refer to the chaz v'shaik? So Amar Rava Kfar Paska Tanad Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanad Rabbi Shmuel already learned. The Tanad Rabbi Shmuel. V'neder almana ugerusha yakam aleha. The neder of almana ugerusha yakam aleha. V'neder almana ugerusha kol asher asra al nafsha. Anything she asks on herself, yakam aleha. Because there's no one to take it off. She's an almana. She's a gerusha. There's no one to take it off. So, my Talmud Loima. What are you telling me? Why do you have to tell me the nether Ramana Grusha that you have to keep? Of course you have to keep it. There's no one to take it off. She's no longer in her father's jurisdiction. She's no longer in her husband's jurisdiction. So what are we talking about? It can't be speaking about a regular Gerusha. It can't be speaking about a regular Amana. Because again, for that, I don't need a pasuk. Ella must be speaking. It's speaking about a girl, a Naira. The father wants to marry her off, gives her over to the shluchim of the husband, or the shluchim of the father give over the shluchim of the husband, and on the way of going to the husband, she becomes an almana, or he divorces her. Whose jurisdiction is she in? Since she left even for an hour the rishus of the father, he no longer can be mefer. So therefore, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that the husband can be mefer. I know this in the limit of Rabbi Yishmael, and therefore, what? Since I know that the father, I said the husband, that the father can no longer be mefer, lechem is prat l'chaz b'shaik. It comes to say she doesn't go back to the chaz b'shaik. I don't need a limit to tell me that she doesn't go back to the father for what hafaras nedarim. I have another pasuk for that. So again, right now we're holding when she goes back, in a regular case where a girl goes back to her father's house, as long as she doesn't have any children, she goes back to Truma, she does not go back to the chaz of a shaykh. We have two psukim to teach me that, either Murim and Akachim or Milechem. A third pasuk. Rav Safra Amar Milechem Avia Tochel, Lechem V'lei Basar. You don't learn it from the word Milechem, you learn that from the word Lechem. Not the mem, but you learn it from the Lechem. Why does she go back and eat? She goes back and eats Lechem, but she does not go back to eat Basar. Rav Papa Amar, Milechem Avia Sochel, Lechem Akoni Lavia, Prat Lechaz V'Shoik, Dimishulchan Gavaya Kazachu. Again, he learns it from the word Lechem, and he says, Lechem that the father acquires, that she goes back and eats. Truma the father acquires. Mashenkein, the Chaz V'Shoik is given not by acquirement, it's given as a gift from Mishulchan Gavaya from the Mizbeach, and therefore what? The Chaz V'Shoik. So you have a few limudim based upon the word Lechem, whether it's from the mem, whether it's from the kinyan, whether it's from it's lechem and not basar. This would teach me that the she goes back to eat truma. She doesn't go back to eat the chaz v'shaik. Rava Amar, Rabbi says v'schazi atnufa v'shaik truma toichelu. Okay, what is the part? Listen to this pasuk. V'schazi atnufa, the chest of the waving, v'shok truma tochlu b'makom tar, you sleep b'makom tar. Ata uvanecha uvinasecha itach, you, your son, your daughter with you. Okay, what are we going to do with this limud? Let's see. Right? In the time what sheitach. In the time that what? That she is what? That she is with you. In the time that what? That she is with you. In other words, that she didn't get married. But once she gets married and then she gets divorced or becomes a widow, then she doesn't eat the chaz v'shaik because she's no longer considered itach. She's no longer considered. It's fascinating when each one did not like about the other one's limud. I think pshat is like this. I think they had the Messiah. They know you couldn't eat it. The question is, where in the Torah does it say it? In other words, what was the mashmois according to them? What was the mashmois according to them? Where did they derive this halacha from of the chaz v'shaik? So one that derives from the Mur Merkachim, a few of them from the word lechem, and Rava from the itach. Amr Avad Barava. Excuse me? What other parts? The other parts goes to the owner, not the kohen. What does the kohen get from the cause of a sheikh? What does the kohen get from a shlamim? What are we discussing? What we are only discussing the matnas kahuna, right? That she could eat as the chaz of a sheikh is unique to what the kohen. Any other part of the animal is a shlamim. So we're focusing on the kohen part, right? The matnas kohen part, maybe, right? Okay, so now Amr Avad Barava Tana Kishi Chayzeres LeBeis Avia Chayzeres LeTruma Ben Chayzeres LeChaz of a sheikh Bishvil Bina Chayzeres Af LeChaz of a sheikh. Here's a chiddush, guys. You hear this? Right? You hear this? If in the case where she loses it, she marries a Levi. Right? She is a bas Yisrael. She's married to a kohen. She eats truma, bas Yisrael. She eats truma. She eats chaz v'shok. Yes, she does. Good. She marries a Levi. Right? As a result of this marriage, does she get truma? Does she get the chaz v'shok? No. Levi dies, and the son she has. If the son has from Levi, but she has a son from the kohen, right? She's chayzeres. She goes back. What does she go back to? Both. So in other words, the rights of the son of return are greater than the death of the husband. The husband, if he die or divorce her, the bas kohen would go back, and she would get only the truma. Over here, if she's returning, right? She would get what? She would get the chaz v'shak as well. You would get the chaz v'shak as well.
Rabbi, is that because the son is eating also and it's around?
See, it seems to be that's a different status. This is
Right.
the bas Yisrael. In other words, that was a bas kohen going back to daddy with no children. This is, in other words, she's eating machmas the son. When it's machmas herself, then once she got married, no longer is she in that status. When it's machmas the son, then it's a whole different achila. It's a whole different. Now it seems to be it's a different achila because she's a bas Yisrael being fed by the son, and the son is still here. Mashen came when she was married, so the marriage took her out, and now she's going back. That marriage took her out of the chaz v'shaik completely. Okay, very, very interesting halacha. Okay, so says that's Rav Mordechai Amar the Shmaitzer committed to Rav Ashi. Rav Mordechai said the sugya over in front of Rav Ashi. Amra, Rav Mordechai said mehacha kamis rabis. Right? Where do you learn that what a bas Yisrael eats because of bina mivavas mi adifule mina? In other words, how do we begin the sugya, guys? The word ubas, we learned the vav, the extra vav that the son feeds the bas Yisrael. Right? Good. So now you're telling me that the source of your limud is better than the etzem limud itself. Here's the pasuk: Ubas koye kisiya leizar Bas Kohen Kisi Almana Gerusha Vizera Ein La, then she'll go home. Who's that speaking about? A Bas Kohen. Without any children, will go back to daddy. But we know she only goes back to daddy for the truma, not chaz v'shoik. Where do you know a Bas Yisrael that the son feeds? It says ubas. Good. So you're telling me the limud, what you learn out, is greater than the source. The source is limited to truma and not chaz v'shoik. But you're telling me the banah that feeds will feed him more. That's the kasher of Mordechai's asking. So it says the Menachamo. Azal Rab Mordechai Amar L'Shmaitza Kamei Ravashi Amar Mehacha Kamis Rabis Mibivas Mi Adifa Lo Mina. Can the woman being fed by a son be better than the Bas Kohen Atzma? Says Haslam Kasivi Miuta Hachaloi Kasivi Miuta. Over there, it's over there in the parsha of what of the there it says a miyut, right? She doesn't go back to the chaz of a shaykh, right? We had miutim galore, mi lechem, churim min akashim, lechem v'lei basar, itoch. We had a whole bunch of limudim miutim to teach me that a regular bas kohen doesn't go back. Masha enkin over here we only have a riboy for the Bas Yisrael that's eating because of her son. We have no miutim. And the Mela, when she goes back, she'd go back not only to the truma from the son, she'd go back to the chaz of a shaykh. So again, in conclusion, just the summarize the Gemara. The Gemara is a Gemara we had earlier. This goes along with the theme of the Perek of Yesh Mutarais, the first Taisvis, that this basically is a massive chazara. And we're going back and saying that these cases where she gets married and loses a right. So if she's a Bas Yisrael who had a son that fed a truma, if she's that's a Bas Yisrael. A Bas Kohen who loses the right, there's a distinction if they would go back. The Bas Kohen who loses the right and then regains it because her husband died or she was divorced and has no children, she would only go back to the truma, not the chaz of a sheikh, because of the limudim. The Bas Yisrael who married a Kohen, who had a son from the Kohen, lost the right by marrying somebody else, then having that somebody else die, and she's now going back, the son would feed her chaz of a sheikh as well. That's the summary. Okay. So Bas Kohen Shnis of Yisrael, the top right, Leisachel b'truma. We said if it dies, then he has a ben. She doesn't eat truma because the son would stop her from eating. Okay. It says the Torah Rabbanan Ushavo el Beisavia. She goes back to her father's house and eats truma. Prat l'shemeres yavam. Again, here's what's the pasuk. Ubas koyin kisia almana gerusha v'zera ein la v'shava el beis avia. She returned to her father's house. Kinureha milechem avia. So now, someone who returns to the father's house, prat l'shemeres yavam. So let's say she loses her husband. She has a brother. He has a brother. Obviously he's a koyin, right? She would not go back to her father's house. No, excuse me, he's not a kohen. He's a Yisrael. She's a Bas Kohen. Her husband has a brother. Since there's a zika to the brother, it's not considered vishava. It's not considered you returning what to your father's house. The pasuk says, when you return to your father's house, then you'll eat truma. She's not returning. She has the zika. Kinureha beisavia, kinureha. If she'll be in the same status as when she left, like a naira, prat lemuberes. This would exclude a woman that's pregnant. So if a Bas Kohen marries a Yisrael, he dies and she's pregnant, or he divorces her and she's pregnant, she would not eat truma because she's not kinureha. She's not like she was when she left. She wasn't like kinureha. She wasn't like a naira. Now the Gemara is going to have a kal v'chomer. Guys, halt cup with this kal v'chomer because it's going to take us to the end of the parak. Okay, v'loi dinu. It's a kal v'chomer that mu'beres should stop. So why would I need a pasuk to tell me yeah? I got a kal v'chomer. Uma b'makoim shlei asa vlad min arishoin kid vlad min asheni lepoitra min ayibum. Okay, let's say a woman she's married, she has a child. She now marries somebody else, and with that second husband, she does not have a child, and that second husband dies. Does she fall to yibum? She has a child from another husband. A, B, and C. She has a husband. She has a child from A. She marries B. B dies. No children. Does she fall to yibum? And the answer is The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Answer is yes, right? Answer is yes. It's all about him. It's all about him. Yeah. So she has a child, but since she doesn't have a child with husband B, she falls to Yibum. So now look at the lashon, guys. Uma b'makan shelo yasa Vlad min harishon kula kavlad min hasheni lepoitrim min hayibum. The child from the worst, the first child, the first husband, we will not treat like a Vlad from the second husband. The pata from Yibum, nonetheless. Asa uber ki yalod. What happens if he leaves her pregnant? Then she doesn't fall to Yibum. Guys, if she's pregnant, she doesn't fall to Yibum. So in other words, a vadai child she falls to Yibum. Pregnancy, she would stop from falling to Yibum. Makaim by Baskayin li Yisrael. Sha'asa Vlad min Arishain kivlad min Hasheni. But Baskayin to Yisrael that we make a Vlad from the Rishain kivlad min Hasheni lepoisel min Truma. The pasel from Truma. Einaydin shenasa uba kiyilud. Is it not for sure we'll make an uba like it's already born? Okay, by Truma. What's the case over here? Okay, let's see Rashi over here, guys. 4 lines up. Makam sha'asa Vlad Rishain like a sheni. Bas koyin shenisas Yisrael. V'yoldaloi. So now she has a Yisrael. Who makes and her husband dies. V'nisas la'acher. She marries a second husband, umeis, and he dies. Beloy bonim. Adayin he is surah b'truma. She's still asati truma. Why? Mishum Vlad min harishain. Dakasiv b'zer ein la v'ariyesh la. As long as she has a child, this bas koyin is not going to be able to eat truma. So certainly, if she's pregnant, it'll stop her from eating truma. Guys, outside. What's a kal v'chaymer? Madach by Yibum, where a child will not stop the Yibum from taking place. An Ubra would, if she has a child from the first husband and not from the second, she's falling to Yibum. But if she's pregnant, they would stop from falling to Yibum in a place where a child, hang in there, just hang. In a place where the child will stop her. Where is that? In the case of a bas koyin to Yisrael, as long as there's a child, she ain't going back to daddy. Ain't I din that an uba would stop her, that a pregnancy would stop. So why do I need the pas of kinureha if I have a kal v'chaymer? One more time. Madach et makab yimub, where a child will not stop her from falling to Yibum, but Eber would. So Rabbi Rosenzweig is making a face because the Eber is from the second husband, not the first husband. Okay, good. I know. Now, a great safety. Now, but we see that pregnancy is better than a child. Certainly, where a child stops it from happening, kal v'chaymer, pregnancy will stop it from happening. That's the kal v'chaymer. Let's see it inside the words again. One more time. Fred the Gemara v'loy dinu. It's a din of kal v'chaymer. Again, it says kinureha, if she's pregnant, the bas kohen does not go back to daddy to eat truma. So now the Gemara is asking, I have a kal v'chomer to teach me that. Why don't I need a pasuk to teach me that? V'loy dinhu. Uma b'makom shloyasa Vlad min harishon kevlad min hasheni lepoitrim min hayibum. If she has a child from husband A, not from B, it's not going to stop her from the yibum. But nonetheless, asa uber kiyilud, we're going to make an uber kiyilud. Said she was right. That if she was pregnant, it's going to stop. Makam shasa Vlad min harishon kevlad min hasheni lepoitrim min truma. As long as she has a child, she can't go back to daddy's house to eat truma. Ain't a din shenasa uba kiyilud is not a kal v'chaymer that the pregnancy will stop her. So why do I need kinureha to teach me pregnancy if I have a kal v'chaymer? It says loy mali asa uba kiyilud le'inyan yibum shari asa mesim kechayim nasa uba kiyilud le'inyan truma shloi asa mesim kechayim tamlei mekinureha. What are you going to say? By mali asa uba kiyilud inyan yibum shari by yibum asa mesim, we're going to view the mesim as if they're alive. Says Rashi, 3 lines up. If she dies and then a child dies, it's like the child's alive. Guys outside. If the husband dies and leaves a child, good. There's no yibum, correct? What happens if the child dies? Is the yibum? No yibum. So therefore, we're making the mesim, the child, the dead, like they're alive. We're going to view this dead child as if it's alive because it's stopping the. No, listen, guys, listen to this. Watch. The husband dies on a Sunday. She has a child, and the child dies on Monday. She's not falling to yibum. The husband's name, Gilgal, being the shamas again, all these spoke out, all the Torah we spoke out. L'chaira, and the answer is, we're going to view this dead child on Monday as if it's alive. That's them's the apples. That's it. So, yibum, we're going to view the mesim kechayim, says the Gemara. So now we want to slug up the Kal V'Chomer. Okay, let's go through it again. Mali aloi. Mali asa uber kiyilud. You know what we make by yibum a baby like it's alive, like it's born. Linyan yibum shari asa mesim kechayim. So therefore nasa uber kiyilud linyan trum kechayim. Stop. So in other words, it makes sense to go ahead and say the pregnancy stops it because if the child is born, it stops it, even if he's dead. Nasa uber kiyilud linyan truma. Should we make a pregnant woman linyan truma? By truma, we're not going to say if they're dead, then you're going to be able to eat truma. If the child's dead, you're going to be able to eat truma, right? So we should, and we don't make mesim kechayim, right? As if they're alive to stop. Therefore, you have to tell me kinureha pratlan muberes. You have to tell me kinureha pratlan muberes. Okay, says the Gemara. Now it says two psukim. It says that she's muberes and medashing that what? That kinureha pratlan muberes, right? And it says, the pasuk says, v'zera einla, she goes back home. So you're both telling me in that she's not in the same state. V'zera einla, and you're telling me what? Muberes. You're telling me the same thing. It says the Gemara, di kasa rachmana v'zera einla, she has no children. Meikara chad gufa v'hashta trei gufa. I'd say, you know what? There she was one body, now there's two bodies. Therefore, since it's two separate bodies, she can't go back to the way she was. When she left home, she was one body, and now she's coming back. She's still one body because the child's inside of her. I would say she eats truma. So tzricha tell me that she's pregnant. Kinureha muberes, she doesn't. Because when muberes, the meikara, I'll tell you why. The meikara before she got married, gufa srika, a body was empty. Like an elan srak, a tree that doesn't deliver fruit is called an elan srak. So she's surika. Vahash the gufa malya, now she's body is full. Avalzera einla the meikara gufa srika, the body was empty. Vahash the gufa srika, now it's empty. I'd say ein maloy, I'd say she could eat shuma. So tzricha tell me she doesn't. So tzricha, you have to tell me that she doesn't. So again, we have the limud, the shlugged up the Kal V'Chomer, and therefore we needed kinureha to tell me that if she's muberes, she's pregnant, she does not go back to truma. This okay. Simin amalei leinasa masel b'misa nasis leinasis b'vod yibum truma simin. Okay, let's go through the Kal V'Chomer again, guys. What's a Kal V'Chomer? Kal V'Chomer is by yibum. We're going to say that the Vlad min Rishon, Vlad min Hasheni, right? We don't make it, but the Uba does. By truma, where we're going to treat the Vlad min Hasheni, ain't a din that the Uba should do it. Okay, so let's see the Kal V'Chomer now. Says the Gemara. Amalei Rav Yehuda midiskarta l'Rava loinasa mesim kechayim le'inyanyimim. We should not make mesim l'chayim le'inyanyimim. Okay, so I told you the wrong part of the Kal V'Chomer. Right? The shlag of the Kal V'Chomer was that by yibum. Why do we say by yibum that as long as the child's alive, even if it dies afterwards, as long as it was alive at the time of the husband's death, it's going to be pata from yibum. So of course we're going to view the mesim kechayim. So let's slug that up. It says the Rabbi, loinasa mesim kechayim. We shouldn't go ahead to pata from yibum. Why? Mikal V'Chomer. Uma b'makom she'asa Vlad min Rishon kula min Hasheni lepaisla min Truma. Ma b'makom we Vlad from the first husband. We'll pass the from Truma. Loyasa mesim kechayim. We don't go ahead and say the mesim l'chayim that he dies is chazeres lebeis aviyah, that she goes back home. Malcolm Shlayasa Vlad Ben Arishan Kula Vlad Ben Hashem the Pachim Yibum. She's still gonna be Chayv in Yibum, even though what? She has a child from the first husband, but not from the second. Ein Din is not a Kavachayma, so that's a Mesim Kachayim that we should not make a dead child like a live child, and she should fall to Yibum. Tamalayma Deracher Darchi Noyam. The Chol Nesiva says Shalom. He said, you remember we brought this in, guys, when we brought it, the Meshach Chachma by Trua Ravu, that Deracher Darchi Noyam, the ways of the Torah are sweet. Think about this, guys. If you would go ahead, a woman would never be able to get married because she'd always have to worry, maybe the child's going to die. I only have one child, he's going to die, and then I'm going to fall to Yibum. If you have a child at the time of the husband's death, or you're pregnant at the time of your husband's death, you're finished. That's it. The ways of the Torah is sweet. It would not be sweet if you go ahead wide and expect a woman to wait. Okay, now let's play around with this configuration a few other ways. Let's say the Mesim Kechayim Linyan Truma, we should treat the Mesim like Chayim by Truma. If they're dead, then they should feed. If what, the case where the first husband, she has a child with the first husband, not from the second, right? Us the Mesim Kechayim will say that a dead child is like a live child, part from Yibum. Malcolm Shasa Vladman Arishan Kavladman Asheni to the Paisman Truma, Ein Adin Shanas the Mesim Kechayim. We should view what the Mesim Kechayim Tamlema Vizera Ein La. It has to be, you make Mesim Kechayim that they're alive and say she doesn't need Truma. That would stop her from eating Truma. Tamlema Vizera Ein La. Mamish, you have to have no children. Even though through a Kal V'chayim you'd say, well, we'll make the Mesim Kechayim, and even if she has no children anymore, she should not go back because it's like a live child. Kamash, well, no, your mamish need a live child. Now let's another variable. V'naseh Vlad min Arishayin kivlad min Hasheni le'inyan yibo mekal v'chaymer. Let's make the Vlad min Hasheni le'inyan yibo mekal v'chaymer. In other words, if you have a Vlad from the first husband, it should be a Vlad from the second husband. She shouldn't fall to Yibum. We should view as having a child with the following svara. We don't say a dead child is like a live child to stop from reading Truma. Nonetheless, us of Vlad min Arishan Vlad min Hasheni to stop reading Truma. Welcome to us the Mesim Kechayim. In the case by Yibum, we're going to make a dead person like a live person to say that watch doesn't fall to Yibum. Then Yibum ain't a din shenasa Vlad min Arishan Vlad min Hasheni to stop him from falling to Yibum. Tamalema uben ein la v'ein la. Ben ein la. There's no ben to him to the ein la. There's no ben to who? The second husband. V'ein la. He has no child. Okay, let's finish off the final variable in this way. We should say that that the Vlad min Hasheni should not stop from impacting from eating Truma. We should be able to eat Truma. We'll say if the child dies, even though since it was alive at the time of the Nefila. That doesn't part of Yibam. We're going to not stop the Yibam from taking place because she has a child from the first husband. Nonetheless, welcome Mesim Kechayim by Truma. We're not going to make Mesim Kechayim, and we're going to say that she goes back to daddy. Then Truma Ein Din Shleinasav Vlad min Arishan Kavod min Hasheni and allow her to eat Truma. Tamalema Ein La v'Hayesh La, and she has. So there was the different variables. Okay, so Allah remains the same. Okay, let's just do the Mishnah. This is a very fascinating parak. This is the sugya of a woman going overseas, husband dying overseas. This is the sugya of Aguna. This is the big sugya of Aguna. That the place Tamata Aguna is the most shverish shaila. The biggest shailas in Klal Yisrael's history is the Tamata and Aguna. I mean, after the war, it was. My Rabbi said he went through the sugya 150 times. He mated over 1,000 agunas. Husband never showed up. Well, it could be. It could be again. I'm not sure. I have a shot, but I'm not going to say it. Okay, what? So now, Ha'isha shahoyla balach l'medina sayam. A husband goes overseas, sees uba'u v'omru, and they come and they say. Now this they is one. It's an eid echad. It's an eid echad. So why they use the lashon of amru is I still took shatim. One, you always say the lashon of amru, but because usually this is two. Over here it's one, but a beautiful shot I saw in the Tosfos Yontif, guys. We will believe aid mipi aid. In other words, there's tremendous coolness by Eidus Isha mishemiguni kilu barabanan. You believe aid mipi aid. Usually, a person has to see it themselves. So let's say in a concentration camp, Leilenu, if a woman heard from another woman that so and so died, she will believe to say that the person died. So there it's va'amru. They said. It's not they. It's they. Very interesting shot. But Amru, they say the Meis Bailech, your husband died. V'nisas, and she gets married based upon the testimony of this Eid Echad. V'achach ba Baila, and lo and behold, her first husband shows up. So Nimsa, guys, she was never married to the second husband. Nimsa, she was never married to the second husband. Teitzi mizeh u'mizeh. She has to leave both. Now let's go through this. Why does she have to leave the first husband? Because she has a din of a woman that was mizana. She was mizana, so and therefore she has to leave the first husband. The second husband is only what is the rabbanon. But again, takes mizeh, right? Yeah. Now the question is, why does she have to leave the first husband? What does she do wrong? So the very important Rashi, guys. Very important, very important Rashi. Third line down. Like any other woman who acted immorally. The hach lavanusahi. In this case, she's not considered she's not considered accidental over here. Even though the Chachamim believed an Eid Echad, as we'll see tomorrow by Iguna, Taimamai mishum dehi gufa daika adiyoda bekushta umitzvah. Isha daika umitzvah. A woman will go ahead and turn over every stone to make sure what the Eid said is true, because she knows if she marries somebody else, like Shitzkadach, the second children could be mamzerim. It causes tremendous problems. Okay, so the Eid Echad is just an impetus. We believe him. But the impetus is that she then will go ahead and act upon that edus and check it out. Failing to check it out and having the husband show up, that was the onus is upon her, and therefore teitzi mizeh mizeh. Okay, for her daika konasole bikansaha, that she has to leave what so she can't marry the second husband. He's not married, but she has to leave the first husband. It's teitzi mizeh mizeh. The tzricha get mizeh mizeh. Now the first one you need to get deraisa. The second one is only get, because people shouldn't think a person they will know about the whole Torah. They'll think a woman going free without a get, so you give a get for the second one. They ain't look ksuba. We cancel, guys. She doesn't get collect a ksuba. Filet peiris, she would not go ahead and she would collect the peiris. Filet mezainis, if she borrowed money when her husband was overseas, you don't have to pay up. Filet belois, the clothing she brought into the marriage that would warn, pay the difference. Lo yalzev, lo yalzeh on either one. If not lo mizeh tax, if she does take the money, she has to return it. Vlad mamza mizeh umizeh. The vlad is a mamza from each one. Now it's a mamza from the second husband. That's clearly a mamza because she was an ish. But even if the second husband, the first husband remarries her, then they would grace her that it's a mamza the rabbanon. Right? Look at Rashi. Vlad mamza mizeh umizeh. Im yolda misheni mamza gomer. If she has a child with the second husband, it's a mamza gomer. And the first husband takes it back. That'll be a mamza midavreim. That'll be a mamza derabanan. You could see why a woman would check out her marriage. If they're kahanim, they will not be mitama to her. And neither one azakai. Now the reason why a woman finds something, the husband gets it, this guy's Mishim Eva. We're going to see Masech Ksubis because of hatred. So here we want them to hate each other. So they don't get the Mitzvah. You get, if she goes to work, you get the money because you're providing mezainis for her. But in this situation, she just get mezainis from you. So therefore you don't get Maisi Yadaha. Nor do you have a right to be made for her Nadarim. If she was a Bas Yisrael, Nifslam in Kahuna, she'll be a Zaina, with the be of a second husband, this is a Chayv Mrs. Bezdin, Ubas Levi, and if she was a Bas Levi, Min Amaisa, she would go ahead as Knas, because the Zaina is really Mutta. The Zaina is Mutta to eat Maisa, but with Knas, Ubas Koyim in Truma, the Bas Koyim in Truma, even Truma de Rabbanon, she will be Asa. Then Yoshim Shalzeh, Yoshim Es Ksubasa, the Gemara is going to ask, you just told me she doesn't have a ksuba. So what are you talking about? V'mesu achiv shalzeh v'achiv shalzeh choytzim lemiyab. There's no yibum over here. Each one will go ahead. There's no din of yibum. Each one will go ahead and do chalitza. Rabbi Yossi Omer, no ksubasa al nichsei ba'ila rishon. There is ksuba and it's on the Bala Rishon. Why should he lose out? He would get the mitzvah if she finds something. He might see a deha uba forest in the reha. So he would get that. He wouldn't learn out. He won't go ahead and lose his rights. Why should he lose his rights? Because of a problem.
So by the same token, why does his son become a mamzer?
Which one? Which one? Which one?
The first.
The first one, it's the Rabbanim. Yeah, it's
still a mamzer.
The Rabbanim. Shimon Omer, bi'asoi chalitzasa me'achiv shel rishon, the bia or chalitza of the first brother. So Shimon seems to say there is a din yibum over here, right? Paiteris sarasa upata v'tzara, and you wouldn't need chalitza from the brother. They ain't a vlad mamzer, okay? And this would answer your question. The vlad is not a mamzer, according to this opinion. The ain't a vlad mimenu mamzer. The nisa shalei b'shus. If she marries Rabbi Shus Bezdin, she marries based upon Eidim, guys. Two Eidim came and said that they died. Then Muteris Lachsaloi. Then, guys, if two Eidim testify that, guys, if two Eidim would testify now that today is daytime, it's daytime. The koyach of Eidus is very, very powerful. Once two Eidim testify that he's dead, he's dead. And if she would marry upon that, she's off the hook. And even if the husband shows up, she is off the hook. She's not guilty. Right. The Nisa Shleiber Shus Muteris Lachsalei, the first husband would be able to take her back because she remarried based upon Eidus. Nisa's Al Pi Bezdin, but she marries Al Pi Bezdin, the heter of Bezdin, Teitse, she would go out, Upatur Min carbon. But she would be put from a carbon to the extent that since she acted by Raz Bezdin with a Rav Bezdin, she'd be put from a carbon. Again, she's a B'shoigeg, this is by a Chatas. So there's Bezdin 1/8. There's 1/8. Lo Nisas Al Pi Bezdin, right? She doesn't go Al Pi Bezdin. Teitse, then she would go out. She would go out. The chayiv is carbon. So even though she was Al Pi Bezdin, so they argue it's Teitse, and you be chayiv a carbon because Yafu Koyach Bezdin should put you in a carbon. Haru Bezdin Nasei, the holcha of the kilkala. If Bezdin went ahead, gave her a raw and permitted to go get married, and the holchel v'kilkala chayeves b'karbin shlei tirua elali nasei. What? So the last thing of the Mishnah. What? Called chatas. Chatas. She was mizana, right? She was mizana. So what happened? What's this last case over here? Haru Bezdin Nasei. Bezdin said she can go ahead and get married. V'holcha v'kilkala, right? That's she went ahead and she was makalkal, for example. Let's say she married an almana, or she married somebody she shouldn't marry. She's an almana. She married a kohen gadol. She's a gerusha. She married a kohen hedget. Then chayavis b'karbin. Shlei tiru elin nasei. Bezdin permitted her to marry, not permitted to go ahead and do an avera. Okay, we'll see Bez Hashem. This is just the introduction.